To Kenya now, and the pre-trial hearing for petitions challenging the repeat presidential elections is underway at the Supreme Court. The full hearing of the petitions is expected to kick off on Wednesday morning. A former lawmaker and two civil society organisations had filed motions protesting the outcome of the rerun presidential polls. Two petitions claim that the vote was following opposition leader Raila Odinga's withdrawal. A third petition seeks to have the court sanction Odinga and his party for blocking the repeat vote in some of his strongholds. President Uhuru Kenyatta won the October poll with 98% of the vote. Odinga, however, withdrew from the contest, accusing the Electoral Commission of failing to implement reforms. Well, CGTN's Robert Nagila is keeping tabs on that story and now joins us live here in our Nairobi studios. Thank you very much for joining us, Robert. First of all, right, the full hearing kicks off tomorrow, Wednesday. What can we expect from the court hearings, and when is the ruling likely to be?
Well, Karen, as we speak, the Supreme Court should be resuming its seating any time from now. They're adjourned for a couple of hours during this pre-trial. Now, what we expect them to do when they come back is to set the grounds for the case itself, the petitions, which begins tomorrow. What to expect? Your guess is as good as mine. We expect it basically to follow the same format as it did in the first petition after the August elections. However, we also expect to see the lawyers put forward their submissions and arguments. And after that is done, once the court is satisfied, they have from today 6 days in which to deliver that judgment. So we're basically looking at Monday as to the final judgment being delivered. Which way it will swing, we have to wait and see. And,
well, what are the possible outcomes, do you think, from the process?
Well, primarily there are two possible outcomes. Number one, the court could decide that based on the evidence that has been adduced before it, it's not weighty enough and throw out the petition. Or it may decide that they are weighty enough. And then that takes us to what next? Are we going to have another elections? Are they going to ask the Electoral Commission to also fix their systems, which has been one of the complaints as well?
Now, I mean, is that a possibility? Going back, you said there could be other elections.
Oh, absolutely.
That could
absolutely.
be an outcome.
If we go back to the first petition after the August 8th election, the judges were very, very clear, saying that an election is not an event, it's a process. So if any bit of that process is interfered with, then it's not a free, fair and credible election. And that's where we find ourselves now, because we've got the petitioners alleging that because of some of the ongoings around the elections itself, then there were no nominations. They say that it is impossible to have come out with a free, fair and credible election. And we've seen an argument spring up again like we did in August 8th, where you've got some of the lawyers saying that, look, we need access to the IEBC service again to ensure that the material there is what is reflected outside. So that judgment will be made this evening and it will guide the court process forward. However, yes, they could decide that, or they may decide then that the IEBC needs to improve its systems. But as far as they're concerned, the outcome of this election was not affected in any way by the process.
Let's talk a bit about what happened, the repeat vote and the period preceding it. It was characterized by protests, demonstrations, all sorts of violence as well. Are there concerns that this petition could give vent to possibly more political problems, more tension in the street? Absolutely,
there are those concerns. At this particular moment as we speak, the situation has calmed down all over the country as far as the political crisis is concerned at this particular moment. However, we also know that the opposition leader Raila Odinga, who boycotted the second election, is out of the country at the moment. Now, he is expected back on Friday. And we've got his supporters calling for 1 million people to come out and march to the airport to welcome him. So that could spell trouble. Now, the court's decision is expected on Monday. Then we expect to see supporters from both sides, the ruling party, Jubilee, and the opposition as well, outside the Supreme Court as they wait for that decision to be made. What happens after is anybody's guess. But yes, tensions are high at the moment.
Okay, so this election process isn't over yet. Thank you very much, Robert Ngilia, for coming in and explaining all of that to us. Thank you.